Okay, I know there's a lot going on, but I thought I would share some thoughts on a recent Canadian ruling in glyphosate, as there are some pretty important implications. So, a Canadian court recently ordered Health Canada's Pest Management Regulatory Agency, or PMRA, to reassess an approval of glyphosate that occurred in 2022. The court ruled that the approval was unreasonable because it did not consider new scientific evidence. So, does this matter? Well, I think it's some pretty big news. Big in terms of what's next. Can Health Canada clarify glyphosate science? Respond in 6 months. The clock is running. And what will be the scope of that response? But there's also more unknowns. In regards to the ruling, does this ruling have broader legal implications beyond the registration of Mad Dog Plus herbicide in 2022? Are there appeal options available, and does Health Canada have other options available to override and or delay a response, and why could that be important? And there are more issues with the response. Does Health Canada limit response to only the studies mentioned by litigants back in 2022? Or do they conduct a thorough re-registration that includes a more comprehensive literature search and review? There's about 4,000 published studies on glyphosate since the monograph meeting of 2015. And there's an awful lot of science in that filings that were made directed at Health Canada. And then there's the problem with the limited response, in that it would lead to more legal challenges as new studies emerge. There are also issues with harmonized and uniform regulations and registration. It's believed that the United States Environmental Protection Agency is set to reevaluate glyphosate in 2026. And if you haven't noticed, there have been some recent changes in the U.S. administration. Staffing cuts and new personnel at US EPA, USDA, FDA could significantly alter regulatory focus, and that is an understatement. There's also a new Human Health and Services Secretary in Robert F. Kennedy Jr. Kennedy, through disclosure, has made about $2.5 million from glyphosate-related lawsuits. He believes glyphosate contributes to chronic disease, and he's likely to work with agencies outside of his direct oversight to promote changes that align with his views. And then there's more. Health Canada has historically collaborated closely with the US EPA for decades. This through joint reviews, harmonized risk assessments, data sharing, and uniformity in methods and procedures, where both also engage in international acceptance of data from the EU and OECD programs. This bilateral cooperation is important in reducing trade barriers and increases efficiency in registrations that aim to protect and improve public health and environmental protection. To wrap up, we are seeing some historic changes in international politics and policies. Will the U.S.-Canadian relationship now change because of the new U.S. administration? Will Health Canada adopt a more independent approach? And will the Canadian response and adjudication of glyphosate science align with the current EU opinions and registration of glyphosate abroad? So many questions, and unfortunately we have few answers at this point. But thanks for taking some time to listen.